Okay, we're now live on Facebook, and I'm going to start the recording here on Zoom as well. We have folks coming in. Thanks for joining us, everybody, on Zoom. And for the folks in Facebook land, thanks for joining us. Okay, I think we're all set. All right, welcome everyone. My name is Melissa Hoyer. I'm the Executive Director of the Susitna River Coalition based in Talkeetna. Just so folks know, this is being recorded here on Zoom and will be posted to YouTube and is also live on Facebook. Feel free throughout this presentation to type your questions in either through the question chat box here on Zoom or on Facebook Live, and we'll get those answered throughout the conversation. There's a couple different opportunities for questions from the audience. Just so folks know, we're holding this election because we feel that the Matanuska Electric Association is a really important venue and opportunity for citizen engagement and decision making in the Matanuska Valley. And we're just really excited to be part of this again. We are a bit biased in our holding of this. We have other non-biased participants here. We are endorsing Mark for the Matanuska seat, but this roundtable is just really open conversation to let everyone get to know all the different candidates. You can learn more about why we're involved in the election and what we kind of what our concerns and thoughts are on our Facebook page at susitnarivercoalition.org. And now I'm going to turn it over to the rest of the panelists to introduce themselves, and then we'll jump right in. Barry, if you would like to go next.
Thanks, Melissa, and hi everyone. My name is Barry DeSuvero, and I'm the Executive Director of the Alaska Public Interest Research Group, or AKPIRG, and we're a consumer interest or public interest and consumer advocacy nonprofit. And we have not endorsed anyone. We are not endorsing any candidates in utility elections this year, but we think it's really important for folks to be involved with their cooperative utility and to get the chance to meet the people who get to make a lot of these decisions about their energy and their power. So thank you so much for joining. And I want to turn it over to Julie Esty from MEA, the organization itself, to give sort of a brief intro and an update also then to how elections work for MEA specifically. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks, Barry. Hi, everyone. I'm Julie Esty. I'm Director of External Affairs and Strategic Relations at MEA. And I also have with me Jennifer Castro. She's our Public Relations Manager and has a lot to do with how all of these elections run, as well as a gazillion other things at MEA. So thanks everybody for joining, and really thanks to the Susitna River Coalition for hosting this forum. We think this is a really important element of being a member of a cooperative and voting for the people who represent you on the board and make the decisions for your power, just as Barry and Melissa pointed out, is one of the key foundations of the co-op model. So MEA is a co-op. You, if you receive electricity from MEA, are a member of that. And a co-op is basically just a group of people who come together around a specific need. And that need is what drives the mission. It's not profit, so we're not for profit. We don't make money, and we just basically raise enough money through the rates to our members to cover the costs of producing electricity. So also co-ops bring local control. So the co-op is governed by a 7-member board of directors. Each of those members is elected by you. There are 4 district seats that represent specific districts. We're here tonight to talk about one district, which is the Matanuska district, which runs roughly from Glacier View and includes Palmer and everything in between, and the Butte, which is where I'm from. And then we also have Eagle River District and Susitna West, up more towards Willow, Talkeetna. And then we have Susitna East, which is kind of Wasilla proper. So there's 4 district seats, and then there's 3 at-large seats, which are voted on by the entire membership. So next year will be one of those elections for one of those seats. This year, we're voting for the Matanuska seat and the Eagle River seat. And so only those folks will be voting. Your vote is incredibly important. And we really appreciate you guys taking time to educate yourselves on the vote that you're going to do. So the board of directors is an amazing opportunity to become involved in your co-op. Again, these are all just members like you who pay their electric bills just like you and turn on the light switch just like you, and also represent each of your interests on the board and make decisions, really big, important decisions, not only for you and your cooperative, but we're also making a lot of decisions about the whole interconnected system. And it's a really exciting time to be a part of your electric cooperative right now, because the utility industry is transforming in a lot of different ways, and even more so here in Alaska, where we're just starting to take some of these collaborative structures and bring all of the utilities, independent power producers, the state interests all together into one organization for decision making. So your board of directors helps guide that direction, and they're really the high level fiduciary responsibility for the co-op. So they're responsible for that. We use sustainability in a lot of different contexts, but in this one, it's really the longevity and sustainability of the cooperative. We want to make sure we're around to keep providing you power for a long time. And that's part of the mission of the board, and to represent a broad group of interests. We have a very, very diverse group of members, and all of their interests need to be represented at the table. So that's one of the other things that we depend on the board of directors to do as well. So budget, capital credit, strategic planning, and at a really high level of governance is what the board does. There's also opportunities to be involved in committees. For instance, just around the elections, there's a bylaw committee who's working on the basic governance structures in the bylaws. And then there's an election committee, and they're making sure that the organization is running the election as we should, and in fairness to all candidates. So it's really that member watchdog group, and that looks at the election and says, okay, is this happening fair? So there's lots of opportunities. There's actually open seats on both the bylaw and the election committee right now if people are interested in that. But really the most important thing you can do is vote and be involved. And we always welcome people to our board meetings. We really welcome people to participate in our other conversations. We've had listening sessions, we've had member surveys, we've had focus groups. So there's lots of opportunities to be involved and to learn. And we're really in a place of collecting information about what our members are wanting as this transformation is happening. So it's a great time to make your voice heard. So again, one of the best ways to do that is by voting. So I'm in the Matanuska district, as I said, and I received this gorgeous envelope designed by Jennifer, great job. And you'll notice 80 years of being a co-op. So 80 years ago, a group of farmers from Palmer said, hey, it would be really helpful if we had power. So they formed this cooperative and made that investment. And now each of us, as we join in, continue that investment in the system for its longevity and sustainability. So in this beautiful envelope, you'll find a few different things. First is this little note card, whoops, which is high glare in my sunny window. This note card talks to you about the annual meeting. So typically we all gather for an annual meeting. Right now, we're still on the cusp of that feeling safe for everybody. So instead, we're going to do a virtual annual meeting Tuesday, April 27th at 6 o'clock. You have to pre-register. All of that information is right here in this card. That's also when the election results will be announced. We do presentations on what's been happening in the co-op, talk about the financials, and it's an opportunity too for you to ask questions directly to the board and to the CEO. So that's a great thing to also be involved. The other thing you're going to find is this booklet, and this booklet has all the information you will need to vote. So it has just some general information on voting, and then it also has profiles of each of the members. I don't know if you can see those, but you can refer to your booklet. These are also all online. So you can just go to mea.coop and find all of the information that's contained in here. In addition, we have some videos of each of the candidates that Jennifer also put together. So those are really helpful to get a sense of who people are. Once you've read this and educated yourself, the next key piece is this ballot. And this ballot is the key to voting. So there's a couple different ways you can do this paper ballot, the old-fashioned way. You fill in your circle, you fold it up, you put it in this envelope, and you mail it to us. Before you mail it to us, please, please, please sign the back of it. We have to have you sign the back of it. It's how we verify who you are. We don't have, when you walk into normal voting, somebody checks your ID, and we do it by signature. If you don't sign this, we can't count your vote because we don't know it's legitimately you. So please sign the back of your envelope. Please, please, please. Okay, so you put this in here, you put it in the mail, and you need to put it in the mail by, I would, as early as possible, because all votes have to be received at MEA, not postmarked, received at MEA by April 26th. So by 5 p.m. by the time we close. So please mail it. Don't drop it off, because again, we try to keep an arm's length from our elections to make sure that they're done with the utmost integrity. So they must be mailed. They can't be dropped off with us. We can't accept them at the office. So please mail them. Or the other really, really easy thing to do is to hop online. Hopefully you all have Smart Hub accounts. That's how you find out what your energy usage is. That's how you can pay your bill. That's how you can report outages. It's a really amazing tool. If you're not on it, I'd recommend it. You can just hop right on there. There's a little vote now button in the top right-hand corner, typically, depending on your screen. You just click that and it verifies you through that process and takes you right to the screen. You can go through and look at member profiles right online as well and do your voting right there. So that's another very easy way to vote. We're really trying to get members to vote online more and more people are comfortable, but we know there's still folks that like to do the paper ballot. So we're doing both. But this would be, I think, that the most important thing you can do as a co-op member, other than get involved through lending us your feedback and your good ideas. So Melissa, I know the people are not here to listen to me talk, but I just thought I'd cover those basic things, and happy to take questions or move along to Mark and Brandi.
Thanks so much. Are there any questions? Not seeing any pop up, but are there any questions from the audience for Julie? That was a great overview and presentation. The only thing I think, and I don't think I missed it, but next year and for future years, voting is changing. So all MEA participants will be able to vote in all future elections, right?
Yeah, thanks, Melissa. Last year, there were some bylaw changes, and the effort of that was to kind of spread out those at-large seats that we have. So right now, what they were before is all 3 at-large seats were coming open on 1 year. And from a kind of board sustainability and turnover risk perspective, we thought, let's spread those out so that there's less risk for a big turnover, and make sure that also allows people to participate more fully in every election, aside from just their one election. So there's been some adjustments around that. For instance, this year, the Eagle River seat is just for 1 year because we had to change the order of them for staggering. So next year, it will be one of the at-large seats, and also the Eagle River seat will be up for re-election then. So that is true. There will still be 1 year when it's just 2 districts, because there are just 3 at-large seats, and there's 4 years of elections. That's the cycle. So yes, you'll still vote more often. And then there's often bylaw changes too. Last year, the membership voted to overhaul our bylaws. Our bylaws have been around for 80 years, and there's been 80 years of amendments based on all kinds of things. And so they're hard to navigate. They don't necessarily keep up with the times. And in some places, there's even a few conflicts. And so we're hoping to overhaul the bylaws in the next year or 2. It's a long process. And then there'll be a lot to vote on for the membership there. So thanks for bringing that up. We are trying to adjust.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, any questions before we move on to the really exciting part? Not to say your part wasn't really exciting. Oh yes, I have one. Has MEA set a date for the next board discussion of the carbon reductions?
So the board will likely be taking it up at the next board meeting, on our regular board meeting, April 12th. We did commit to doing a learning session with these elections coming into our board meeting, and then the annual meeting that will probably take place more towards the end of April. But that's going to be a chance. We presented a presentation to the board during a special meeting a few weeks ago. Because it was structured as a standard board meeting, there was public comment at first, but then there wasn't a lot of opportunity for interaction or asking questions, giving feedback. So we want to provide that opportunity for members, and that will take place in the next few weeks. We don't have an exact date set, but we hope to within the next week or so. And we'll make sure everybody who was a part of it is, and will knows about the next one, and then we'll make sure that this whole group is aware of it as well.
Perfect, thank you. And we'll try to help get that information out as well. I also, Jennifer flagged, what are the prizes for voting?
Yes, no, that's great. Jennifer, why don't you go into the prizes, since you've been accumulating so many good ones?
Yeah, so we, like Julie had mentioned, we're working on promoting more of our voting online. And so each Friday, for our membership that votes online, we'll be doing a prize drawing. So this Friday, we'll be drawing for a Samsung tablet, which is pretty cool. And then the next 2 Fridays, we'll also be doing a drawing for a Samsung tablet. And then the final grand prize drawing for online voting is going to be the AirPods, the really fancy ones that are newer that are out there. And then the grand prize overall for both those that vote online and or by ballot is a year of electricity. So I'm pretty sure most folks would love a year of electricity for free. There are some conditions with that, of course, some limitations on your monthly accrual that you can use, but those are the prizes. And so we really just want to encourage folks to vote, especially vote online through the Smart Hub app. It's really quick, it's really easy. And we've made it also accessible through the Smart Hub app. So if you have the Smart Hub app on your phone, for the first time this year, you can vote using the Smart Hub app. In the past, you used to have to log on through a desktop or laptop, but now you can do it through the app. So super convenient, and you can be rewarded for voting. So thanks.
Yeah, and one of the reasons we really are focusing on online, one, that's just how a lot of folks are now, interacting with the world, but it also saves our members a considerable amount of money. I mean, sending all of these materials to all 53,000+ members, it's an important part. We don't want to skimp on these things, but we want to make sure we're trying to do things that down the road we can save our members money and do things smarter.
Excellent. All right. Thanks so much. I really appreciate you guys being here and helping us understand MEA more. I know it's people have a lot of questions all the time about what they can do and how to be involved. And now, talking about who will be the next representative, I think I'm going to pass it over to Very. And
Thanks, Melissa.
thanks.
Hi, everyone. Again, Melissa and I will be co-MCs for the evening, if that's not already clear. And I'm so excited to meet our panelists and really grateful to Julie and Jennifer for giving us more of a context about, what is this organization that is guiding our power and that is serving the land on which this is all happening and on which we live. And so I would be remiss if I didn't also acknowledge that MEA is on unceded Dena'ina and Atna lands. And as we do this work, it's important to remember that cooperatives are about building power together and working together communally and collectively. And that includes acknowledging all the parts in which we gather our resources from. So with that, I wanted to now hopefully meet the people who, one of whom will be a steward for the Matanuska MEA seat in the next 2 years. And I want to give you each an opportunity to introduce yourself. We've allocated, just so you know, about 5 to 10 minutes. So just sort of brief introductions. And Brandi, I'll let you go first.
All right. Hello, everybody. As you can tell, I'm having an interesting background. I am Brandi Burchett. I am not a long-term resident of Alaska. I've always wanted to do things that are impactful and are important and are part of healing, helping, and educating. Like if those are things that I could say, like 3 words that describe myself, that would be it. A healer, an educator, and wanting to be impactful. And so I initially came here to Alaska, and my background is in behavioral health because I think that that's something that's important. And I came to Alaska because I felt like that I could be put to use. And I relocated. And when I got here, I was like, okay, there's Anchorage and then there's the Valley. The Valley's calling my name because I'm initially from North Carolina and Anchorage was a little bit too big city for me. And the Valley called my name. And so when I got there, I'm one of those persons that I want to get roots. I want to find my peoples. I want to find my community, and I want to be involved and be a part of it. And so that is immediately what we wanted to do. And My son goes to Colony High School. I want to be the one that's like, what can I do? Where can I do it? How can I do it? I got involved in my community. My spouse is involved in the community, and we really do believe in, what can we do to be put to work? I want to be put to service, and that's my hopes and intentions. When I first learned about the board, it was like people came to me and were like, well, what do you know about energy? And I was like, well, hopefully I'm going to learn about energy. And my thought in being on this board would be for me to learn as much as I can, and then to look at educating the community on learning the things that I know. And then my belief or my purpose on being on the board would be to hear what the community wants and see how can I help the community's needs be met. Or if there's something the community is asking for and it can't be met, let me go to MEA, find that out, and bring that back to the board. If it can't happen, here's why. I believe education is really key. And I believe if we're wanting to look at, if we're wanting to be further along when it comes to renewable energy, let's find out why we're not, and let me bring that back. Or let's find out what would have to happen for that to happen, and then bring that back. And I think that way the community is at least informed, because I do really look at this not so much on, what does Brandi bring to the table? Brandi brings the passion, the drive, the education, the sincereness, and my genuineness. I do have some filter. Some would say I have none. That's not true. There's a little bit somewhere in there, but I think you're going to get truth and you're going to get genuineness from me. And I'm going to ask questions, and I would ask questions on my community's behalf. I would ask questions on the people that I'm put in this board to serve. And I want to bring those answers back. What I would love to see is us look at different alternatives. Let's look at why the things that we've been doing work and why the things that we've maybe tried didn't work. And let's start there. That's the groundwork. I made a joke earlier with someone that I'm solution focused to a fault. And I don't think that's true. I think being solution focused is a great strength. I think you can use it in your personal life, professional, and in things that you want to do in your community by looking at what it is that is the identified problem and how can we solve it. And I think what's really important, what I really gravitated to the more I began to learn about MEA, was that it really wants to be inclusive of everyone in the community. And it really wants to look at, what's everyone's part? What does everyone play? How does everyone come together? What are the needs? What are the different communities? Even here in the Valley, I think someone was speaking earlier of, yes, this large, vast borough that has so many differences when you go from one end to the other, and you're like, oh wait, I'm still in the same borough? Really? I've been driving for hours. And I think that's something that's to be in play, because something that could, work in Willow may not work at all in Palmer. And I think that's important for me to also bring to the board and us to have that in our back of our minds. And so I don't know if I've been talking for 5 minutes. That was going to be my goal, but I think I'm really just going to end it, when you're still thinking, what did she say? So that's Brandi. And hopefully, if anything else, you remember that I want to be impactful and I want to serve you.
Thank you so much, Brandi. I really appreciate you making time and finding and that awesome introduction. And I'll turn it over to Mark.
Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Mark Masteller. Thanks, Melissa and Barry, for organizing this roundtable. Let's see. I got to the Palmer area in 1990 after about 9 years working in other parts of Alaska, originally from Colorado. My parents are from Iowa area and they migrated. So I migrated with them to Colorado, and I left there now 40 years ago. Been serving on in my day job, I teach for the University of Alaska Fairbanks. I run the Sustainable Energy Program for the Bristol Bay campus. I've been doing that for the university almost 10 years now, but I started out doing other things. But I've been in the building science, energy efficiency, and renewable energy world for about the last 20 years now. And I got elected to the board in 2017. So I'm finishing my first term. I've learned a lot on the board. Brandi's right. It's a chance for service and learning. And I've learned an awful lot. I think MEA is doing a lot of things right. We have a really great staff, a lot of leadership. Julie kind of mentioned some of the things going on in the rail belt, we call it, from Homer to Fairbanks. But my goals are to, the board's job, basically, we need to make sure that power is reliable, affordable, and safe, right? Probably safe first, reliable, and affordable. Those are our three jobs. We work with the CEO. We don't micromanage what's going on in the organization. That's the CEO's job. And people like Julie and Jennifer do all that. So the board's job is to look at that bigger picture, look down the line a little bit, keep those rates affordable, look at how things might be changing in the energy world, and also really, where does our community want to go? Which is where, we need to be listening to our membership, and we get great feedback from some of the surveys that we do, et cetera. So I want to continue serving on the board. I think I have great experience to go forward and do that. I really do appreciate anybody wanting to serve. I think Brandi made a really great point. A person does not need any special talents to be a board member. You need to be willing to listen to people and act. And I really appreciate folks being willing to serve on boards. I've served on the Borough Planning Commission, a few other things I don't need to go into, but service is important to me as well. And I think I'll leave it there for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mark. Thank you both for being here and taking the time to speak with and to folks who are interested and engaged with MEA. And that brings us to our next portion of the evening, which will be the roundtable. So I'm just going to briefly walk through what this process is going to look like. And so we're going to, Melissa and then myself are going to ask questions to each of the candidates, and the candidates are each going to have 2.5 minutes to respond to each question. I'll be timekeeper, so I'm going to be the bad guy. And I'll let you know when 10 seconds when to wrap up. And then from there, that's only going to be about 10 minutes. And from there, we're going to then move to audience questions. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. You can use the raise hand function, or if you're listening on Facebook Live, you can ask in the chat there as well. And so we're going to do questions from the audience, and then we're going to, if we have time, we have more questions. We have lots of questions. We're going to ask 2 more questions, and then we're going to close. So hopefully there will be lots of information shared this evening and position everyone really well to understand who they want to vote for. Okay, that sounds good. Let's get started. Then Melissa, do you want to ask the first question?
Sure, and I just want to echo, I'm really thankful both of you are here, and I'm just excited that that you both are interested in running for this position. It's really great. So Brandi, because you got to introduce yourself first, I'm going to give Mark your first go at this question, and Brandi, you'll get second go, and then Brandi, you'll get to answer the next question first, and we'll kind of go back and forth from there, if that's all right with you guys. So my question is, MEA members surveys have shown consistently that over 75% of our members support integrating more renewables. If elected, what will you do to advocate for a diverse energy grid, responsible renewables, and a carbon reduction goal? And I'll post that in the chat as well. And if you're able to also incorporate your thoughts on how Susitna Dam does or does not fit into that goal, that would get you extra bonus points.
Okay, well, I think the important thing is really, one of the things we've been doing that I've been advocating for is that carbon reduction goal you just mentioned, Melissa. If the organization sets a carbon reduction goal, everything can stem from that. That gives us a lot of options as to how to get there, and almost all of them include, either more renewable energy or energy efficiency or both. We really should be pursuing both. But the reality is, right now, we're doing a good job. We get about 16% of our energy from renewables. Most of that is hydro, and it would be good to be able to get more. We're actually doing some things to get more from Bradley Lake, et cetera. And we've got to increased share of hydro from Eklutna Hydro as the result of the sale of MLMP to Chugach Electric. And we've got the largest solar farm in the state in our service area, and we've, our staff has signed a power purchase agreement, or we have signed a power purchase agreement with them for 30 years. So we're encouraging that. But it's important to remember that those folks developing the renewables, they have to compete. It's not more expensive power. They've got to compete with what we generate from natural gas. My view is that the more we can incorporate some of these other alternatives, the longer we can stretch our natural gas supplies, because some of that is relatively fragile in Cook Inlet. So we need to be thinking long-term about that. And then maybe to wrap up, I'm not a fan of Susitna Hydro simply because we have a lot of generation on the rail belt right now. Most of us, we have plenty of generation. And the impacts of Susitna Hydro are just way too large for us to be worried. Plus, it's a very expensive project. So I'm a fan of hydro, but not big, huge hydro like that, especially on a river that's so important for salmon. So I think we should be looking for alternatives wherever we can look for, but not in large hydro. Thanks.
Thank you. Brandi, I'm happy to repeat the question. I know it's kind of a long one.
No, I looked in the chat box. I don't know if that was cheating or not. I was like, okay, go back
good.
there. So I will say what came to mind when you first said it was like, and again, energy is not my go-to. It's not in my background, but I'm looking at this from pulling my various experiences. And when I thought about it, I said, I would think when you're doing, looking at putting or investing, you don't put everything into one stock. You kind of look at how can I have a diverse portfolio, or say. And so I'm thinking, why don't we kind of put that out there? And we have the hydro, and we're talking about the solar panels. And I don't know about the rest, but where I live at, we get some wind, some kind of bad sometimes, where it's like, whoo, I thought it was an earthquake. Nope, it's just the wind. And so I was thinking, okay, why don't we look at the different types of renewable energy sources and making a portfolio or diversifying it and seeing what our members would think about that, and maybe looking at how much of each type of renewable source we would want to have. And when we're looking at a goal, let's have a goal to have this percentage be this, or this percentage be this, and then working towards that goal. That way that we do have a good mix. And I think solar is great in the summers here. I mean, I've seen, some of our plants. So obviously in the summers, we could rack up some things, but in the winter, that's not going to really be effective. And so I would propose that we kind of look at a diversity and then putting that out there. And also, I think I said this in one of these meetings, I was like, I'm so invested in this that I'd be willing to, and I don't know if many would be, pay a portion, or maybe rent, or, connect with MEA to have a solar panel on top of my house, or whatever that would be. How would that mean? What would that do? How would that work? Just to be able to say, I want to do my part. Because I think if a majority are open to it, I think there is an investment in wanting to do our part, and each person playing a part in that. But we also need to know what would be the cost. And I think there would be, hey guys, if you want to do this, here's your opportunity, but here's what the cost would be. We would have to do this, or it may change this, or it may increase your bill this much. But I think that's where the education would come from, and presenting it to the community, presenting it to our members, and saying, would you be open to this? And then hearing their feedback. That's my non-answer answer.
That's great. Thank you.
That was 2 minutes, 30 seconds on the dot. Perfect. Awesome.
Okay, Barry, I'll pass to the next question.
Thanks, Melissa. Okay, so the next question I will also put in the chat, and it is, MEA is a cooperative electric utility, which means that member owners have a voice in MEA's operations as a member owner. What does being a member owner mean to you, and how would you like to see MEA engage further with its member owners? And I believe this is going first to Brandi.
Yes, I will say I, have enjoyed thoroughly being a member owner. And again, my previous experiences were not in a cooperative, and it was, I won't even say the name, back and down in the lower 48. And it was kind of, here's your bill, pay for it. You know, this is, you've used X amount, this is your bill, and we'll see you next month when we send you the next bill. And so there wasn't really a lot of feedback or wanting me to have that investment. And I think that this cooperative to me means that you are an owner in this, you are a part of this. And it means even more so because it's a part in saying I'm a member of the community and I'm a part owner in this, which means I have a stake in it being successful. I have a stake in it being beneficial and efficient. And that's something that I can take personally. And I think that's a great benefit. And I love that part. So that even if I'm not elected on board, which I do want to be, I want to put out there that I would still love to serve on a committee or a task force or a task group if there's something that needs to be held in there, because I think that's what it really means. When you're a part of the cooperative, you're a part of a community, you're a part of a family, and that's what I would see this as.
Thank you, Brandi. Turn it over to.
Okay, yeah. So being a member owner, it's interesting because I think a lot of people don't know they're member owners. In fact, one of our goals in the one of our strategic goals is to improve member interaction. I credit Julie and Jennifer for that key point, is that, you know, we strive, you know, in this day and age, a lot of people, they, like Brandi kind of described, they just get their electric bill and they don't think they have a voice. When people understand their owners, they should know that they can come to the board with their concerns. We do a good job surveying people. It's our job now to listen. For instance, that statistic earlier about 75% of our member owners would like to see more renewable energy. That's something we need to listen to and set goals to get there. And also, though, keep in mind, we have to watch out that for the financial health of the organization. So we have those two things to balance, you know, reliable, cost-effective power, and also move in this direction our members want to do. And we can do that through good member engagement. And I like to say that people can call me on anything to do with the cooperative, and they do contact the board. And I appreciate it when they contact all the board members. It's really a great way to go.
Perfect. Thank you so much, both Mark and Brandi. We're going to move now into questions from the audience. And so please feel free, you can use the Q&A feature as well. And I see one person already has. So we have one question from Dave Musgrave. And I think depending on the time or depending on the type of question, maybe it doesn't have to stick to 2.5 minutes for your answer. So for both candidates, what are your thoughts on carbon reduction by MEA, not just efficiencies, but overall CO2 reduction? How would you prioritize CO2 reduction? And does MEA need a carbon reduction goal? So I can post that in the chat as well. Do any of you feel so moved to answer first? Okay, Mark, go for it.
Okay, so I strongly think we need a carbon reduction goal. We're working on that already, so that's a good thing. But I think, as I mentioned earlier, if you set a carbon reduction goal, a lot of opportunities open up from there. So once you say we want to reduce our carbon, then you can get to things like a renewable portfolio standard if you want to go that, in other words, X amount of energy from renewables. But you don't really need that. If you've got the carbon reduction goal, you can do all sorts of things to try to reach that. And I think it should be an aggressive goal in this day and age. And the first thing we should be thinking about, because it's always the most cost-effective thing, is efficiency actions. What can we do to reduce demand? So that reduces our members' bill. If they don't have to buy as many kilowatt hours, that reduces their bill first. And you might say, well, wait a minute, we want to make sure we sell enough kilowatt hours to stay afloat. Well, we're a cooperative, so we don't have to worry about making profits. We just have to make sure energy is affordable. And then I'll finish up by saying, I didn't mention this in the last question, but as far as member engagement and feedback, there is a proposed innovation committee. And again, this is a way for us to hear from members, not only on things like carbon, but if we have an innovation committee of our members, they can give us feedback on all sorts of things. In the old days, we had something called the Member Advisory Committee. And I view the proposed innovation committee as another good way to get feedback from our members, especially on things like carbon and other things.
Okay, I'll take
Thank you
it
so
now.
much.
Sorry. I would say, I would want to say there's usually nothing new under the sun. And so there's usually someone that's already doing it and they're doing a good job. And so I would probably want to look at where is someone doing it and doing it good? Where, I mean, they're doing it well, they're knocking it out the park. And what's the difference between us and them? If it's, I'm just throwing out places there. Let's say Oregon has it and they're doing it well. And they reduced it and they found a way for cost to be kept minimal, yet it's been very impactful. What's their benchmark? Where are they at? How did they do it? What worked? And it's, will it work here or won't it work here, and why won't it? And that's kind of how I see things. Like, look around, look at a benchmark, look at someone that's doing something that you want to mock or copy or imitate, and then see if it'll work here. And if it won't, what parts of it could work here? And so I would first want to say, like, I don't know right now what is a good reduction in carbon footprint. Let's find out what is a good one, or someone that's doing it well, and then let's find out from there. So that's kind of where I would go. Because right now I could say, oh, we want to do it by 2%, but I don't even know what 2% would be. Is 2% good? Let's look. And so I'll go back to it and say, I would really want to look at someone that's doing it well, that's hitting the measures, that's doing it. And if they did it well, what about it worked for their members? Or if it wasn't a cooperative, how could it work under the umbrella of a cooperative?
Thank you, Brandi. So we don't have any other questions at the moment, so please feel free to add them in the chat. And in the meantime, I might go ahead and just ask my second question, which is, beyond its responsibility to its member owners, MEA serves ratepayers who are not member owners. For example, you can have multiple residents in one house. Not all of them are registered as MEA member owners, but they all, have to pay someone every month for their utilities. In addition to that, MEA has entered into a tight power pool agreement with Chugach and helped create the implementation committee for the Railbelt Reliability Council. How do you see MEA's obligation to serve those who are not specifically member owners?
Well, that's a good one. I mean, the tight pool is really important from the perspective of, kind of increasing our ability, or let's just say improving our ability to work well with other cooperatives nearby. So that's, especially Chugach Electric. So that helps us to kind of, balance the load over a larger area and, make sure we meet needs without running generation where we don't need to. As far as ratepayers who aren't actual members, that's a really good question. I'd have to think more about that because, clearly let's say I'm a landlord and I'm passing along my rent, my electric bill to my tenants. There's a natural disconnect there where the tenants would see a benefit if I did something to reduce the electric bill, but I don't have any incentive to do that because they're paying the electric bill. This is a classic disconnect we see in the energy world, I should say. And so I would have to think, I would like to look at some models of how that's been done in other places to help deal with that issue. Because again, these are people that live in our area. It's helping our community if we can keep people's energy costs low. And I think the utility has a role in long-time community health and community development, like economic diversification. So I'd have to look at some other models. That's a really great question.
Thanks, Mark. I'll turn it over to Brandi.
I think about MEA still having, it is a business still. And so when I look at it, I kind of look at some of the pillars that kind of run underneath the business. And you have your financial, and you're going to have, you know, are you productive? Are you efficient? And but then there's this other part that I sometimes think is maybe the most important, which is the culture. And I think even if someone is not a member owner, if MEA is good in creating a culture around it, and a culture around responsible usage, and really creates an efficiency, it will spread beyond those that are just member owners to anyone that is a user. And I think the stronger the culture, the more education, communication, engagement that is put out there between MEA and its members, as well as those that are utilizers. I think you'll start seeing people, even if I am not a direct beneficiary, I'm a part of this culture that's looking at being efficient and looking at reducing usage if it's unnecessary. And so I'm a part of something bigger. And I think that's one thing that I will say for myself, tapped into just being an Alaskan period, is the fact that I feel like I'm a part of something bigger. I'm a part of a culture that's invested in our wildlife, our economy, our environment. And I think creating that culture and spreading it could be impactful.
Thanks so much, Brandi. Okay, well, I think Melissa may have given you a sneak peek into the next question. Do you want to read it off? Oh, I think you might have frozen.
Oh yeah, sorry, I'm having a rough internet connection over here. Sorry for the delay. Everything is a little bit behind for me. Thanks, you guys. I do have another question. And Brandi, I think if you'd like to go first, you're up if you'd like to. So part of my question's posted in the panel and the chat box, and part of it isn't. I posted it too quickly. I didn't mean to press enter. So in 2011, the state of Alaska resurrected previously discarded plans to dam the Susitna River 87 miles north of Talkeetna. The estimated price tag to construct the dam is between $5 to $8 billion. Because this is a state project, the public and the ratepayers would foot the bill. So this is the main part of the question, but it's a bit more complicated. You know, every couple years, there's always a big development project that comes up. Right now, the West Susitna Access Road is being discussed, which would open up a huge new mining district west of the Susitna River. There's potentially a lot of infrastructure spending money coming from DC through COVID spending and back to work projects, which could alleviate some of the price tag of this project, but still make it incredibly high, and the environmental and economic impacts to the Susitna watershed would remain astronomical. My question is, how would you balance the demands of changing political scenes with different projects that are sometimes highly energy, have high energy requirements against ideas like this super large scale Susitna Dam? And how would you kind of pivot to discuss other alternatives for meeting some of these high energy need projects?
Well, I would say I would again, I'll say something about like me being really like solution focused and really looking at one thing is I don't want to be the one in the room with all the answers. So I'd kind of want to get different perspectives from different people that would be affected by this. So if there's members that have an opinion, and if there's environmentalists that have an opinion, or if there's the workforce that would be a part of those that would be, you know, on the crew doing the repairs. I want to get kind of everyone in the room, and let's sit down and let's honestly say, you know, what's the cost? What's the benefits? How would this affect you? And if we didn't do this, what would this mean? Because I think if you at least have everyone in the room having a voice to be heard, that's impactful. I think the most discouraging thing is when people aren't given a voice to be heard. And I think if we're at least saying, hey, we're bringing you to the table, we want to hear your voice, this is where we're at, I think after maybe some tugs, some fights, some different things, we might come out with at least 2 or 3 different possibilities that could actually work, that everyone may on some level, maybe no one's walking away from the table feeling like, yes, this is it, I won, you guys lost. But there's a little bit where everyone says, you know, I kind of got this part of it. Another one saying, I kind of walked away with this. So, I mean, to me, if everyone at least walked away from the table with something and nobody walked away from the table with nothing, that's probably about as good as it's going to get. And I think, you know, we could set the stage for, you know, regardless of the political arena or whatever's a hot topic or a button in there, we can maybe show that it can be done. And that's my naivety or my optimism.
Oh, well, let me jump in. So, you know, it's an interesting time to be in Alaska because, you know, I think, are we truly to the point where we no longer have tons and tons of state cash to throw at large projects that aren't going to go anywhere? I've been around long enough to, you know, see the mid 1980s Susitna proposal and lots of work related to that, feasibility studies, et cetera. And then it didn't go anywhere. And now we're, you know, that project again is kind of on the back burner. But I think in general, the state doesn't have any money. I mean, for the past 6 years, the legislature has been using up our savings accounts. So we're not going to see large state projects. And, you know, right now, maybe Ada or somebody's going to bond for some projects, but we're not going to see large projects like Susitna-Watana. But instead, what we can do, I'm a big fan of distributed generation resources because it improves local energy security. So small projects in a lot of places, and a big part of that is efficiency first. So first we reduce demand. If you reduce demand and we still increase the percent of renewables we bring on board, we don't have to run our Eklutna generation station as long, which means that life of that project gets longer because we don't have to do the maintenance, et cetera. We stretch out all of our sunk costs that we already have. One of the reasons Bradley Lake Power is the cheapest as it is because it was built a long time ago and it's paid for, and now the fuel is free. And that's not going to be the case with Eklutna generation station, the power plant, our power plant. So fuel costs are the big deal. As we start to spread out our generation resources into renewables and reduce demand, we don't need things like Susitna-Watana Dam. We simply don't need them. We can do things differently.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you, Brandi. I think the next question we have from an audience member is also about hydroelectric power. And MEA has the responsibility to address the effects of the Eklutna hydroelectric project and dams, which they are a part owner of, along with Chugach Electric. So are you in support of the ongoing efforts to get the water back into the river, as MEA is currently doing? And if so, how would you prioritize moving those efforts forward? And Mark, I think that maybe it's apt that this is going to you since you are currently on the board and have been working on this. So maybe it'll be helpful to give some background with what the status is right now, and then sort of what you think what it looks like to move forward.
I want to make sure, Very, did you want me to address that first?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, thanks. I wasn't clear. So right now, MEA staff is involved in the studies necessary to look at the Eklutna River, and that the required studies. In fact, our staff has gotten an early start on that, which is really great. It's another sign of leadership. I think MEA can work at getting water back in that river. It's going to take some work, you know. Right now, unfortunately, which is true in lots of places in the United States, no water is allocated for things like fish. the water in the Eklutna River is allocated 90% for energy production and 10% for water for the city of Anchorage. So I think we do need to do things to work to get water back in the river. So we need to be involved with the community. We need to be listening to folks as to how to do that. I think one of the meetings, I think one of the most well-attended one of the MEA board members that had the most people come talk to us was one time when 6 or 8 people from Eagle River came and said, we want you to help get water back in the Eklutna River. I think we can help do that and still produce clean hydropower, but we have to kind of work and set that as a goal.
Thanks, Mark. I'll turn it over to you.
What I definitely am in favor of anything that would bring the natural balance, or as close to the natural balance in our ecosystem as much as possible. Highly in favor of that. I think one way is to look at, again, diversifying our renewable energy sources so that we are not dependent on one, and we can really look at now, how can we give back? I'm gonna go back to the idea of culture again. Is MEA is looking at diversifying itself, and I'm a part of being on that team, then I think we're also going to be about that part of the culture and really looking at, hey, we care, we're invested in this, and we want to do things that actually gives back and will sustain our ecosystem in the long run. And I think that's the part, and that's going to be where you get the members to really like eyes open all of a sudden and be like, oh, I am a member, and this is what it's like to be in a cooperative. Okay, like if you're a member or not, you need to be on board with this. Look at what they're doing. Look at the efforts that they're putting behind this. Look at how they're prioritizing this. And I think that's going to be a large part of that cultural piece, is not just really, talking the talk, but us really walking the walk. I mean, there's public things that we could do. There's education. There's, hey, MEA is going to be out here doing this, and this is what we could do. But I think really going back to that cultural piece and saying, here is a problem. We are invested. We want to be a part of the solution. Work with us on doing that.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Brandi. And thanks, Mark. I want to close out with a final question from an audience member. The Anchorage Daily News ran a story 2 days ago on wildfire risk and electric utilities. How can MEA change its operations to reduce the risk of starting wildfires, while at the same time reducing the impact to members of preventative or proactive service shutoffs?
I think I'll jump on here, and I will say the right now this is not my strength, but I will say I really would want to look at what are those processes currently, and I would have to have a better understanding of what's the current process and what were the factors that led to fires in the past, and who was responsible for it. And not saying like who, but what system was in effect that failed, or what process was in effect that is ineffective, and how can we look at, looking at that. And so there's going to be, a lot of, when you're doing, PDSA, Plan, Do, Study, Act. We got a problem. Let's try this, and let's go forward, and let's just see what worked and what didn't work. But more than that, I would kind of really want to say, if this is something that's being brought to the paper, I think I would want us to, MEA, to get in front of it more than be reactive to it. And I think that's going to be one that sends a clear message to the community, is MEA took the lead on seeing, hey, this is something that's happened, or this is something that we're concerned about. This is what we're doing to get in front of it. This is what we're doing to prevent it and the happening in the future. And I think that, again, it sends a clear message into not being like, oh, this happened on the back end. And I'm not saying that that's the case, but I'm saying I think you begin to support and understand and have more trust in an organization that's being transparent in things that they're concerned about and that they want to work on and they want to get in front of, that it makes like, you didn't have to put that out there in front of us, but you did. And you're also telling us what you're going to do about it.
I guess I would say, Very, that MEA really doesn't have to change what they're doing now because they're doing a great job in this respect. That the main thing, of course, is to make sure that within the MEA right of way, there isn't trees that cause fire hazards. And I think that article did a good job of pointing out that the vast majority of problems are trees that have been caused, are trees that are outside of MEA's control. And what MEA currently does is they go along and they offer to cut these problem trees or hazard trees. They offer to cut them free, which is a pretty good service, I think, to our area. And so the problem that comes in, or the issue comes in, when how do we get a hold of those landowners? Because there's a huge variety of landowners out there. Some of them don't live in the state or whatever. But if there's a hazard tree that's not within MEA's right of way, they can't necessarily go do anything about it. But if it's there and the owner wants it cut, MEA does it for free. So this is a big deal. I mean, the wildfire that cut the transmission line, was it last summer or 2 summers ago? Last summer, I guess, from Bradley Lake was a huge cost to everybody north of Bradley Lake because there wasn't power flowing from the hydro facility. So, but I have to say, MEA's got a really good right-of-way maintenance program. I think the staff do a really good job in this respect. And then on top of that, MEA's shown some leadership in legislation in Juneau to address liability to our members from things like trees in the right-of-way.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate you both sharing your thoughts and this time with us. And I want to give you each a couple of minutes to just close. And Brandi, again, I would love if you wanted to go first.
All right. I want to just say I am really, really excited about this opportunity. I appreciate being given this platform and an opportunity to be of service to my community, and to be that service and to be that servant to my community. I want to say I really do champion education, and I think the cultural piece is what I really want to lean on, being impactful. Education and the cultural component that comes with that. I think as we move forward, if I am elected, I would really make it my due diligence. Things that we're doing, everyone knows it. Things that we're doing well, everyone knows it. We want to scream it from the rooftops. And I even think of, the statement that Mark just said about, around the community, they'll offer that. I wonder when I heard that, like, how many people really know that? Oh my goodness, that's wonderful. That needs to be something that's screamed from the rooftop. Because I think if there's things you're doing well, you want people to know. If you're offering something that's cost effective, that's going to be beneficial, that's going to be helpful to the community, everyone needs to know those things. And so that's kind of where I look at that education, that cultural component, I think would take MEA to the next step. And they'll have a lot of people supporting and encouraging and being really invested personally in the forward moving things that MEA is already planning and is already doing. And that's what I would bring to the table. Vote for Brandi.
Thanks so much, Brandi. I'll turn it over to you, Mark.
Okay, well, thanks again, Barry and Melissa, for hosting a forum. It's really great to have a roundtable with Brandi, and I do appreciate anybody jumping in to run, because it's our cooperative. So I think I'll just say that thanks to some help from others, I have a website and it's markformatsu.com. If you want to check that out, it's real basic. MEA's got election materials up on their online, so you can see the statements from the candidates, etc. I appreciate that. MEA does a great job handling the elections. And I would just say, yeah, I look forward to continue serving in this capacity. It is nice that it is a term limited position. I strongly believe that all positions need to be term limited, but I have a couple more terms I can run, and I hope to garner your support and move forward.
Thanks so much, Mark. And thank you again to Julie and Jennifer for joining us and giving us good information about voting. And I will turn it over to Melissa, unless Julie, you wanted to say any last words. Nope. Okay, great. We're turning it over to
Nope, just
Melissa.
wanted to say bye. Thanks.
I think I might be totally frozen, but thank you all.
I think if Melissa could be here right now, what she might say is, thank you for coming. And Melissa, I'm glad you're back.
Sorry,
Just
guys.
in time to close.
Yeah, thank you all so much for being here. I don't know what I've missed or repeated, but I just really appreciate you all taking the time. I hope everyone votes by mail, on the website. There's links that have been posted in the chat and online. And reach out. All the information for MEA and for contacting Julie and Jennifer on their website as well. And Brandi and Mark, thank you both so much for being here tonight, and Barry for doing this with us. We just really appreciate your time and helping us get the word out. This is just great that you guys are running and willing to serve. And we look forward to working with either of you who wins this seat. And we'll keep you all posted in the next couple of weeks.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Have a great evening.
You too, Barry.